I'm Suzy and welcome to This Adulting Thing. This channel is all about discussing the highs, lows, trials and tribulations of adult life. So if you like what you see today, then please feel free to like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, today I want to talk a bit about school and education and what we learned, because I'm getting to that point where I'm feeling like a lot of it was incredibly pointless. I feel like as an adult, you encounter a lot of different things, such as tax or budgeting or, I don't know, even how to fold a sheet, for example. And those things were never things that were really discussed at school. One of the main things for me is geography. Now, my geography just generally isn't very good. I don't really know where things are. I know the names of places, and in my head I feel like I have an idea of where they are, and usually they're completely somewhere else. And that's not just me being dippy. I feel like there are a lot of people, my friends and people that I've spoken to, who have the exact same issue with geography. And in geography, we spend so much time learning about tectonic plates and volcanoes. And don't get me wrong, because that is part of the natural world and it can be super interesting. So no offense if you love geography. But really, what would have been essential to learn about in geography was, this is where Bristol is, this is where Edinburgh is, and just kind of actually find out where places were on the map. I'm not very good at navigating. I'm one of those people who heavily relies on Google Maps to get me from A to B. But I feel like if a teacher had just kind of gone through these basic things about where things are, or how to calculate tax if you're self-employed, or any of the stuff that you actually need to know as an adult, it would have been really helpful. And I know people say that there are things that you can use that you've learned about in school, like Pythagoras theorem, or I don't even know. Really, I feel like we missed out on some massive life skills at school. Generally, we revised all of this stuff, was slaved over the textbooks, well, unless you weren't a nerd like I was, but anyway. We spent ages revising all of this stuff and learning it for exams, and as soon as we walked out of that exam hall, we just wiped it from our minds and we moved on to the next exam and started revising for that one. None of the information that we actually needed was there to learn. Our brain was filled with trigonometry and wuthering heights and such things. I just feel like we were kind of thrown in the deep end with a lot of stuff, and a lot of it we just had to figure out on our own. For example, like sex education. A lot of schools did have sex education, but for me, I was sent to a Catholic school. And if you didn't know, then contraception is against the Catholic religion. So as a result, we never got any sex education in school. And I do understand that to an extent, but ultimately, as young adults, sex education is kind of something that we need to know, and really we should have been taught that rather than having to sort of fumble around and figure it out. I mean, maybe your parents sat down and talked about it to you, but what if they didn't? Then what? I just feel like certain things about school meant that we were really ill-equipped for adult life, even university. I mean, the main thing you learned at university was how to spend loads and loads of money on fees and be in university for about 5 hours a week. Yay! But yeah, it taught you to be independent, manage your own learning and all of that sort of stuff. But what about the actual content? I studied international business, and that's all well and good, but a lot of it, yeah, it hasn't really translated to my actual career. There's so much theory and so many textbooks and so much stuff that actually is completely irrelevant to what your career ends up being. Unless, obviously, you're like a doctor or something like that, and then I'm sure the content was much more relevant than what I learned in my business degree. But I feel like if there was a list of things that we should have been taught earlier in school, geography for me would definitely be one of them. I'd also have kind of liked to understand a bit more about like setting up bills. I'd also have liked to understand a little bit more about current affairs and, I don't know, maybe the economy or politics or things that were going on, rather than all of the things from history class, which of course were interested and important to know, but it kind of made you oblivious to everything else that was going on in the world around you. Definitely more education about self-care, mental health, super, super important, because nowadays children at school have much more accessible resources, but back as a millennial, no one was really talking about mental health, especially at school or at university. People were always getting overwhelmed, stressed, depressed about how much work they had to do, but there wasn't really as much support there as there could have been, or there wasn't the education about how to actually manage those feelings and how to get the help that you needed. Actually, one thing as well that I'm really rubbish with is cars. I do have my car and I drive my car in hope and faith that no lights will come on to the dashboard and that it will continue to run smoothly. But even things like that, I mean, learning what the lights mean in a car, or how often you should have it serviced and all that sort of thing, that would have been useful. That would have been good information to take into adulthood. I feel like that's why adulthood is a lot of fumbling, because you're filling in the gaps that were missed before. You're just having to learn it as you go and hope that it sticks. But I would love to know anyway, what is the one thing that you wish you'd learned earlier in school or at university, or basically before you turned into an adult? Let me know in the comments and I would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks again for tuning in. Please feel free to check out the rest of my channel and the other videos that I have got on there for you, and I hope to see you soon.